Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the next one is titled "Neighbor Stole My Garage." Perhaps stole is a strong word here, but I am just so mad about the entitled attitude of this person. I live in the northeast of England and originally I am from Wales. I have owned a house in Wales that I've been renting out for the last 10 years. Everything has been super smooth until a year ago. The tenants stopped paying rent, made multiple promises to pay, etc. In the end, I got so frustrated that I decided to sell the place. I cut my losses on the outstanding rent, around £3,000, and told the tenant if he left by a certain date, I would write off the rent. Tenant goes over the deadline by a couple of weeks but ultimately leaves. However, the house is in a terrible condition. The tenant had painted many of the walls bright orange and had got this paint everywhere, including the carpet and skirting boards. The oven had half-cooked rotten food. He had been too lazy to put rubbish in the outside bin, so simply threw it in the shed. See this link. And yeah, ripe stars, here you can see where the tenant threw the rubbish, which is really disgusting. Anyway, a bit of a side story, but for context, I live 6 hours away, but my mom and stepfather live 30 minutes away. I've decided to sell, but of course I cannot sell the house in its current state. My mom has generously offered to help and we set a date for me to come back down to start the work. We ordered a skip, etc. 2 solid days work later, the place is looking much better. It is not going to win House of the Year, but enough to sell. One of the issues is that we cannot seem to get the garage key to work. My stepfather promises to come the following week and drill the lock out. Fast forward to the following week and my stepfather is in the process of drilling the lock out when he is interrupted by a neighbor who we will call EN for entitled neighbor. EN: "Excuse me, can you please stop doing that? You're damaging my garage." SF stepfather: actually this garage belongs to my stepson who is selling this house." EN: "Well, I've been using this garage for the last 12 months, so he has no right." SF: what? Turns out that the EN noticed that the new tenant was not using the garage, so he drilled out the locks, swapped a new lock and started using it. When it was finally opened, it was full to the brim with his stuff. He did not think anyone would notice. I find out the information and call him, telling him he has 24 hours to empty the garage and replace the lock. He cannot do it within 24 hours apparently though. And here you can see a text message chat between these people. "Hi XY, it is OP from XYZ. Have you managed to clear the garage yet? Nearly mate, will be all done by Wednesday if that's okay with you. Weather down here has been terrible, has not stopped raining. Me, no worries." But apologizes and promises to drop the new keys through the letterbox in a few days. It is annoying, but luckily it is all working out and I don't want to cause too much hassle with a neighbor. My mom visited the house the following week, picked up the key, opened the garage, and yes, it was now empty. Job well done. And yeah guys, here you can see the finished, I guess, product. AKA a garage that is now empty, but still, at least in my opinion, looks kind of awful. Fast forward 6 months and the house is sold, arranging key handover, etc. However, I get a text from the new owner the following day. And yeah guys, as you can see, there is some new stuff in the garage again. Under the sale contract, it is my responsibility to ensure the house and any buildings are empty for sale, otherwise I can be liable for costs, etc. Straight away I know what's happened and called the EN. Turns out he kept a spare key on the lock change. Yes, in hindsight I should have done my own lock, but I did not think anyone would be that stupid. He noticed no one was using the garage, so he decided to start using it again. I was furious. He could not understand why I was so mad and said, "But you were not using it, so what was the big issue?" "Well, did you ask my permission?" "No." "Does the garage belong to you?" "No." "What do you expect?" I gave him 1 hour to clear the garage before I called the police and ordered a clearance company to empty the garage. The sheer cheek of the man. Anyway, all sorted now, garage is empty, locks have been changed, and having sold the property, the entitled neighbor is now someone else's problem. The first one is titled HOA sued me for having an illegal service dog that saved my life. I destroyed them in court. So I was not exactly sure how to start this story, but I decided that the best way to do it was to talk about me and my dog. I have a Great Dane who is my service dog that I got when I was diagnosed with a seizure disorder. Now right away I will say that I know he is not exactly what someone might picture when they think of a service dog. Most think like a lab that helps blind people navigate, and obviously that is not the case here. I also want to tell a story about how my dog saved my life, so it becomes a little clearer about why I need a service dog and why he is such a big guy. In my free time, I like to fish off of the pier near my house, and of course whenever I go out he comes with me. Always in his vest, making it clear he is a service dog, and sits right next to me at all points. Well, unfortunately, I had a seizure right then and there, and my body ended up falling forward right towards the water. Since my dog is trained, he was able to grab me by the back of my shirt and get back onto the pier and kept me safe until it passed. He got plenty of pets and treats later that day for absolutely saving my life. Now, after hearing a little bit about him, you can imagine my shock when the HOA started harassing me about him. In the HOA bylaws, it states that there is a maximum weight for any dog, and I think it is something like 30 pounds. I could imagine someone from the HOA walking door to door and weighing every dog, trying to see if they go over the mark. Obviously, that is not a thing that happens, but it is funny to think about. Back to reality, to the letters that I got from the HOA explaining that my dog was suspected of being over the weight limit. I really don't know why it said suspected, because it was more than obvious my Great Dane was not under 30 pounds. The thing was though that it shouldn't have mattered because of him being a service dog and not a pet. When you have a service dog, it is basically a piece of medical equipment. The letter continued that they had set a court date and that they were going to have both me and my dog removed from the area. I had sent them letters before when I first got him about the fact that he was a service dog, not to mention it saying so all over his vest. I sent them again though, and a few days later I received a phone call. HOA:
Hello, is this OP?
Me: yes. HOA:
So, we got the papers, but unfortunately, they are not good enough. There isn't any kind of seal and doesn't explain exactly what you have that dog for and what service he could provide.
Me: according to ADA law, I don't need to disclose that information to you. HOA:
Look, he's scaring the other people and dogs in the whole neighborhood. We have rules for a reason, and if you wanna have some bigger dog that could hurt people, you will have to move.
Me: okay, I'm going to stop you right there. How dare you tell me that my dog is a danger to hurt people when a service dog is the most trained type of animal in the world? It is not any of your business what my disability is, and if you wanna press this further, I will just see you in court. So in the end we went to court and I met them, of course with my service dog at my heel. I don't feel like going into detail about their excuses, since it was most of the generic stuff. They said that I looked perfectly fine and did not look disabled. They said my dog was not a service dog because he was a Great Dane, etc. I don't want to give their stupid reasonings any spotlight, because it is what every person says against invisible disabilities, and I'm really tired of it. When it was my turn to present my case though, I was ready. I had a huge folder filled with the papers of certification that I sent them twice now about ADA laws, etc. Now the thing is, unlike some other HOA stories, I was not actually trying to catch them making up a rule or trying to get an unfair rule taken away. It was in their rights to have a weight limit on the pets, and I did not really care. I think they assumed that was what I was going to go after and did not prepare for my actual argument. The thing with HOA bylaws is that they are fine, but they cannot actually override laws, including the Americans with Disabilities Act. In it, I had pulled out sections talking specifically about service dogs and discrimination. Now for the service dog part, it stated that a service dog could be of any breed as long as it can accomplish the task needed by the specific person. Since my dog needed to be big enough to take my weight, it could not be a tiny dog anyway. That still did not matter though, because like I said, a service dog was considered medical equipment and I could not be discriminated or denied entry anywhere because of it. So it was totally illegal for them to even threaten to kick me out of the neighborhood because of my dog. Also, just to clarify, it also stated that the papers I had were sufficient evidence that it was a service dog. Honestly, I think it was really funny because they also tried to argue that my dog was allowed inside the courthouse, which had a sign for no pets. Obviously, he could come as a service dog because the court was not allowed to deny him entry. In the end, the HOA was told to leave me alone, and any more harassment about trying to disprove my disability or getting rid of my dog and they would be getting sued. Messing with ADA law can get people in huge trouble, and I made it clear that next time I was going to sue them for discrimination. I don't know if they really had an issue with my dog or if they didn't want someone disabled living in the neighborhood. I know that sounds like a stretch, but honestly, I would not put it past the people in the HOA to not understand that disabled people are all around them. I wouldn't have been alive without my service dog taking care of me when I had my seizures, and the fact that anyone would want to stop me from having him just makes me sick. He is the best dog in the whole world and I would fight tooth and nail when it comes to him. And ripe stars, if you have watched until here and still enjoy the stories about crazy HOAs, then please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance, your help is very much appreciated. And the next one is titled HOA President from Hell. I live in a small town in the deep south. I have lived on this corner in my neighborhood for over 25 years. In the last 5 years or so, my neighborhood has really been coming up with very nice new construction. My house was very old and worn out, so in 2021 I tore it down and built a new one in its place. I just moved back in 4 months ago. I am recently retired local law enforcement and I am enjoying some well-deserved rest. Last week though, I was enjoying watching some reruns on my sofa when my doorbell rang. I quickly checked the camera and saw a white SUV parked out on the street and some middle-aged woman I had never seen before standing at my door. I opened the door to greet her and she introduced herself as Karen, the president of the HOA. I just looked at her. She said she had not heard from me about my HOA dues. She said she sent me a couple of letters and then tried my door a few times. I just grinned. I told her I received the letters but threw them away, thinking it was a scam. There is no HOA. Never has been, never will be. Clearly she did not realize that I'm the same guy who lived in the old white cracker house on this same corner. And by the way, ripe stars, I don't really understand what old white cracker means, but I guess it is some old dilapidated house or something? I'm not sure. She noticed my fairly thick southern accent and started talking down to me like I was some kind of ignorant bumpkin. Through her condescending smile, she told me that since I am new to the neighborhood, I obviously did not understand how things work here, and if I did not bring my delinquent HOA dues up to current, she would put a lien against my home, and if I still refused to pay, she could take my house. Then she gave me that arrogant smile again and asked if I could afford to lose my home over a few missed payments. The pleasantness left my face and I moved into that deep, serious voice I developed early in my police career. You just threatened to take my home through illegal means. You are trespassing on my property. You will leave now. If you ever return, I will shoot you where you stand. She started to say something, but I leaned towards her and continued, I'm not threatening you. I am telling you, if you ever step foot on my property again, I will put several holes through your body. You will die right here in front of my door, and now leave. Obviously, I'm not going to shoot some unarmed woman, but she did not know that. The seriousness of my voice did the trick and frightened her away. She stumbled backwards and very quickly walked back to her SUV. I figured she would call the police, so I sat there watching the camera. I could see her sitting in her SUV talking on the phone. Sure enough, about 5 minutes later, local PD arrived. Did I mention that I am retired local law enforcement? Many of the local guys trained with me back in the day when I was still in uniform, and most all of them worked with me when I was a debt analyst. Yeah, they all know me and know that this is my house. As I watched the camera, I saw the cop get out of his car. It was a friend. Let's call him Bob. I watched as he stood out in the street talking to the frantic Karen. I can only imagine what she was telling him. As I saw him start to approach the house, I stepped outside. Karen began to follow him up my driveway, but I pointed and told her that she was not allowed on my property and now get. Bob turned to tell her to stay back, but my little "now get" statement infuriated her, which was the point. She tried to push past Bob, but he grabbed her arm to stop her. She turned and shouted at him to let her go and then slapped Bob in the face. That ended about as well as you would imagine. Still holding her arm, Bob maneuvered her face down on my driveway and handcuffed her. She was still screaming some rather rude things. By now I was out by the street with them. I gave Bob a cute smile and asked him if that hurt. He gave me a nasty look and tried not to laugh. All of this commotion had the neighbors out as well. One of the newer neighbors came up to me to ask what was going on with the HOA lady. HOA lady? I asked him to clarify. He said that when he moved in around 8 months ago, she had introduced herself as the HOA president and he had been paying HOA dues to her ever since. Bob overheard this and gave me the look. He got her up and into the back of his patrol car and then called a detective. The detective, we will call her Shirley, arrived and started taking statements and then started knocking doors in the neighborhood. Apparently Karen has been scamming most of the newer people in my neighborhood for over a year over HOA dues. She was arrested for battery on law enforcement and resisting arrest and is awaiting the state attorney's office to build a felony case for her HOA scam. Since she has money and she is not a local and a definite flight risk, she is being held on an insanely high bail. This all just happened 4 days ago. Hopefully I will have some good updates on her case soon. And the next one is titled The Entitled Ones. Not sure if this fits exactly here, but it is close. 16 years ago we bought our first home. The town we live in is bigger for Montana, but tiny compared to a major city. All that to say, we are generally pretty friendly around here. We would see our neighbors from time to time and we tried being friendly, but they were a bit standoffish. A couple of months after moving in, I found out why. I came out of the house to check the mail and our neighbor was parking in front of our house. Her eyes got wide when she saw me and she said, "I'm so sorry, I will move my car right now." I got a puzzled look on my face and said, why do you have to move your car? She stops and says, "Do you rent from the original owners?" I explained that no, we bought the house a few months back. At this point, the whole family had come out of our neighbor's house to make sure everything was okay. They all breathed a sigh of relief. I asked if I was missing something. They proceeded to tell me how when the original owners had the house, they would rent it out and that no one was allowed to park in front of the house or they would call the police. I immediately understood why they were standoffish. I told them not to worry, we park our vehicles in the garage out back and it is a public street, park wherever you like. We've been friends with them for 16 years now. We have watched each other's children grow. We shovel each other's sidewalks and have barbecues in the summer, and it all happened because they thought we were entitled. And yeah, ripe stars, as some of you might know, I recently moved back to the north of Thailand, Chiang Mai to be exact, and unlike previously where we always lived in condos, we now moved into a little neighborhood filled with not only a lot of Thai families, but also a lot of foreigners, especially Chinese and Americans. And I gotta say, the only thing I was worried about at first is that a lot of people here have dogs and I was scared that maybe these dogs would interrupt my recordings. Thank God though, the barking does not really go through the walls as much as I thought it would, so I hope you won't hear anything in my future recordings. But yeah, all I can say is we have really nice neighbors and I am very glad that at least so far I cannot seem to spot any neighbors from hell. However, if there are any, I will keep you posted. I think someone is hiding in my tent. Who is that? It's Disney. Disney in a little tent.
A lot of fun,
Very cute. And then with the tent. Eat the tent. Attack mode. So cute. So yeah guys, as I said, Disney is growing at an impressive rate, getting bigger and bigger. So soon she won't fit into my drawer anymore. But for now she at least still fits in the tent. Disney, you say hi to the Ripestar community. She does not want to say hi today. Oh. Now she can say hi.
Disney.
Disney, Disney, Disney. And Ripe Stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional Ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.